I told him I had trust issues, not in a dramatic, oversharing on the first date way. No, I said it carefully, softly, the way I'd learned makes men lean in instead of pull away. "I've just been through a lot," I murmured, staring down at the tea in my cup like I couldn't meet his eyes. "I'm not ready to rush anything." Theo nodded, his expression warm but cautious. "You don't have to explain, we'll go at your pace." And just like that, I had him. Not in a manipulative way, not yet. At that moment, I truly believed I was doing the right thing, taking it slow, prioritizing safety, learning how to feel seen again, not touched. "I'm Leela, I'm 29, and I swear to God, I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was just trying to survive myself." Theo was the kind of man women claim they want, and then panic when they actually meet. Kind, emotionally present, predictable in the most comforting sense. He had an overwatered plant in his car because he couldn't bear to leave it on his porch in the heat. He sent me playlists titled things like "Songs for Leela to Cry in the Shower to in a Healthy Way." He opened every door, walked me to my car. Never once let his hand slide lower than the small of my back unless I guided it there first, which I never did. And I kept telling him, this is what I need: emotional safety, patience, presence. But what I didn't tell him, what I could never tell him, was that every night, once I got home from our long, safe, delicate dates, I texted Mason. Mason, my ex. Mason, the disaster. Mason, the man who once told me he loved me while sleeping with someone else, and then gaslit me into thinking I was the jealous one. He was toxic, manipulative, addictive. And he made me feel like fire. Not warmth, fire, wild, stupid, breathless hunger. He'd send one word, "Hey," and my whole body would tense, not because I missed him, but because I missed who I used to be when he looked at me like I was chaos wrapped in silk. Our texting had started innocently, just a birthday message, then a "saw this movie, thought of you," then a "how's your mom?" But it turned fast. Late-night voice notes. Photos, not naked, not overt, just me in an old hoodie of his or a close-up of my lips with some coy caption like, "Still your favorite color." He never even asked if I was seeing anyone, and I never offered it. Because what was there to confess? I wasn't sleeping with him. I wasn't cheating. I was just scratching the edge of something, feeding a little addiction in the dark while pretending I was clean in the light. Theo and I kept growing, slowly, sweetly, painfully. He made me lavender pancakes one Sunday and left a post-it note that said, "I hope you feel safe here." I cried in the bathroom while texting Mason, "You wouldn't believe what he just made me for breakfast." Mason replied, "Bet he still can't make you scream like I used to." And I laughed quietly, shamefully, but I laughed. I told myself, this doesn't count. It's not physical, it's not real. Theo kissed my forehead, called me soft, said I was teaching him things about intimacy he'd never learned before. And I smiled. And then I checked my phone under the blanket and replied to Mason with a picture of my bare shoulder and the caption, "He'll never see this." I had compartmentalized my life so perfectly that I almost believed it was sustainable. That I could be this soft, healing, traumatized woman by day and this flirty, teasing ghost of myself by night. And no one would get hurt. Except I forgot something important. No one gets emotionally naked forever without someone eventually noticing the scars. I kept telling myself it didn't count. It wasn't cheating. I wasn't sneaking around to meet Mason in bars or climbing into his car when Theo wasn't looking. There were no hotel rooms, no lipstick-smudged collars, no lies about where I was or who I was with. Only texts. Only voice notes. Only carefully timed photos from the neck up, sometimes in Theo's t-shirts, sometimes in Mason's hoodie I'd claimed I burned a year ago. It was emotional, sure, but emotional wasn't the same as physical. At least, that's what I told myself while I lay on my couch with the lights off, phone glowing in my hand, Mason's words slipping under my skin like the softest blade. God, I forgot how much I loved that look in your eyes when you were hiding something. Remember that night at the lake house? I still think about the way you pulled my hair. Don't tell me you've gone soft now, baby. And then, every time the guilt would hit, not like a wave but like a needle. Precise, sharp, targeted. Because I'd spent the whole day with Theo, telling him about my boundaries. I told him how hard it was to trust again, how I needed space, how sex was complicated for me because of past trauma, how I needed to feel safe, emotionally, mentally, before I could share myself in that way. And he listened like it was scripture. He told me we didn't need to rush. He said he admired how self-aware I was. He said I was teaching him something sacred. Meanwhile, I was texting my ex things like, "I still dream about your hands." The thing is, Theo wasn't boring. He was just quiet in ways Mason had never been. Theo made me tea and rubbed my back when I had cramps. He stayed on the phone while I cried about my sister. He played Sufjan Stevens and read out loud from books he thought I'd like. He didn't touch me below the waist. Not once. And instead of gratitude, I felt restless. I wanted to want him. I wanted his tenderness to be enough. I wanted to delete Mason's number and never look back. But every time Theo kissed my forehead and whispered, "You're safe here," something inside me flinched. Not because I didn't believe him. Because I didn't believe I deserved it. Mason had always met me at my ugliest. He'd seen the screaming, crying, throwing things version of me, and still called me his. Theo saw the curated, soft-focus version, the girl in healing, the candlelit ache. And I was terrified that the second he saw behind the curtain, he'd walk. So I let Mason hold the part of me I was too scared to show Theo. The messy, lusting, impulsive part, the part that still wanted chaos. There was one night I almost broke. Theo had made dinner, an actual dinner, not pasta and jarred sauce, but roasted vegetables, lemon salmon, garlic toast he'd made from scratch. The apartment smelled like heaven. He wore an apron. It was domestic porn, and I should have melted. I didn't. I sat at the table, smiling like I was present, when inside my phone buzzed in my pocket. "Mason. Can't stop thinking about the way you used to moan my name." I stared at the screen so long Theo asked, "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I lied, flipping the phone screen down. "Just my landlord." I excused myself to the bathroom and leaned against the sink, shaking. I had one hand on the counter and the other already drafting a reply. But I stopped. I looked in the mirror. And for the first time, I saw it. The manipulation wasn't coming from Mason. It was coming from me. I wanted to think of myself as the one who got hurt, the one who needed protecting, the girl with boundaries and trauma and the right to be treated gently. And I did have trauma. And I did deserve gentleness. But I was using my pain as a shield, not just to protect myself, but to control the narrative. I had Thea wrapped in emotional caution tape, while I snuck out the side door every night for emotional scraps from a man who had torn me to pieces. I was the one creating false safety. I was the one lying by omission. I was the one pretending that not physical meant not betrayal. But it was betrayal. Theo trusted me, not just with his time and attention, but with his patience, something so many men weaponize when they don't get what they want right away. Theo never did that. He honored me. And I was texting another man about his hands. The worst part, I didn't stop. Not that night, not the next, not after I looked myself in the mirror and admitted I was the problem. Because guilt is addicting too. It convinces you you're too far gone to fix anything, so you might as well keep digging. And that's what I did. Until the night Mason sent a selfie. And I made the biggest mistake of all. It was just a selfie. That's what I kept telling myself afterward. A blurry, stupid, half-lit mirror shot of Mason shirtless in his bathroom, abs flexed like he was 22 again, captioned with, "Still yours." I should have ignored it. Should have rolled my eyes, deleted it, blocked him, buried the entire toxic thread 6 feet under my inbox, and gone to bed like a normal human being. Instead, I replied, "No words, just a photo." A mirror pic of me in bed, shoulders bare, hair tousled. One strap of my tank top slipped off on purpose. Nothing explicit, just enough. Just enough to make him remember. Just enough to remind myself that I still had power. Within seconds, he wrote back, "Fuck, you always knew how to kill me." And in that moment, I felt it, that electric hit of being wanted, not respected, not understood, wanted. The difference was sharp and dirty and exactly what I'd been craving in secret. But then the rush faded. Because the next morning, I woke up to a text from Theo. "I left something by your door. You don't have to open it right away. Just know I mean every word. It was a letter. A real, handwritten letter. 2 pages, double-sided blue ink, neat lines. He wrote about how proud he was of me, of us, of the way we were building something different, something honest, something slow and sacred. He called me his safe place. He said he wasn't used to being emotionally held, and that for the first time in his life, he didn't feel like he had to perform or impress. That with me, he could just exist. I cried reading it. Not because I was moved. Because I knew I'd already broken it. That night, Mason asked me to meet him. Just one drink, he said, to see if the spark's still real. And I said yes. Not because I planned to go, but because I wanted to leave the door cracked, just in case. I didn't realize Theo had seen the message, that I'd forgotten to turn off my lock screen previews, that while I was in the shower, my phone lit up with Mason's name, and Theo, who had dropped off coffee, saw it. He didn't open my phone. He didn't scroll. He didn't need to. The preview alone was enough. When I came out of the bathroom, hair dripping, towel tight, I found him standing by the counter, coffee in one hand, his other clenched in a fist. I froze. "Who's Mason?" he asked. And everything inside me dropped. I had a split second to lie. To say it was a cousin, a coworker, a friend from college, anyone. But I didn't. I stood there, dripping and silent, and watched the man who had done nothing but wait for me begin to understand that he had been waiting alone. He placed the coffee down, calm, quiet. "I think you know how this ends," he said. And I did. But I still tried to salvage it. "It wasn't physical," I blurted. "It was just texting. I swear, Theo. I didn't feel like I could be my full self with you yet. I didn't want to scare you away." His face didn't move. "You didn't feel safe with me, so you gave the unsafe part of you to someone else." "I never slept with him," I whispered. "That doesn't make it better," he said. I stepped closer. I was trying to figure myself out. "No," he cut me off. "You were trying to keep options. You wanted safety and chaos at the same time, and you used my kindness to feel good about it. I didn't mean to hurt you." "But you did." He nodded once, then turned and walked out. He didn't yell, he didn't slam the door, he didn't leave a dramatic silence. He just left. And for the first time in months, I was truly alone. Not lonely. Alone. Because no one was texting me from both sides of the spectrum anymore. Because the man who adored me had walked away. And the man who manipulated me wasn't going to fill that void for long. Not this time. The silence afterward wasn't just quiet, it was surgical, like someone had carved out the center of my life and left me echoing inside the shell. Theo blocked me, not just on text but on every platform. Instagram, Spotify, even Goodreads. And it wasn't petty, it was final. He didn't want to see my name, didn't want to know what I was reading, thinking, liking, listening to. He didn't want reminders. And Mason, he sensed the shift. The next night he messaged, "So, did I ruin your new little romance?" I stared at the screen for a full minute. My hands were shaking. I wanted to blame him. I wanted to scream that he'd ruined everything. That if he hadn't sent that stupid selfie, if he hadn't reminded me of everything I tried to forget, I'd still be okay. But the truth was, it wasn't his fault. It was mine. I was the one who responded. I was the one who flirted at midnight and cried in the morning. I was the one who took 2 men and turned them into emotional scaffolding, hoping I could build a stable self in between. So I didn't reply. For once, I let the thread die. And Mason. He didn't follow up. Because he never really wanted me, just the game. No text the next night. No follow-up on the drink. No attempt to see how I was doing. Just silence. Theo's kind of silence was heavy with heartbreak. Mason was empty with indifference. Both of them gutted me in different ways. I spent the first week trying to distract myself, baking, cleaning, going for long walks, deleting and redownloading dating apps I never actually opened. I thought maybe if I filled my time, the guilt would fade. That I'd feel less like the villain and more like someone who made a complicated mistake. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw Theo's face. Not when he walked away. Not even when he asked, "Who's Mason?" No, I saw his face when he left the letter. The one that called me his safe place. That was the moment that haunted me. Because I realized something I hadn't allowed myself to face. He wasn't just building trust in me. He was healing through me. And I shattered that. Not just for me. For him. For whatever softness he'd managed to open back up in himself after whoever came before me. I was supposed to protect that. I was supposed to be better. But I let Mason in instead. About a week later, my best friend Liv came over with wine and judgment. "You have 5 minutes to mope," she said, dropping her bag and handing me a glass. "Then I'm staging an emotional intervention." "I don't need an intervention," I mumbled. "Girl, you lost a golden retriever of a man who read you poetry and made you handmade hummus. Yes, you do." I laughed barely. She sat down beside me, crossed her legs, and stared. "You love the attention," she said. I didn't respond. "You wanted to feel wanted by the one who made you feel insane, because the one who treated you right made you feel exposed. Still nothing. You weren't ready for Theo, but you used him anyway." That one stung. Because she was right. "I didn't mean to," I said quietly. "I know," she replied, "but intent doesn't undo the hurt." We sat in silence after that. Then she added, "But realizing it, that's the beginning of being someone new." And I wondered, for the first time in weeks, if redemption was even possible. Could I become someone Theo would forgive? Could I become someone I could forgive? I didn't know yet. But I wanted to try. Trying looked nothing like I expected. There was no grand apology email, no "I've changed" post, no late-night phone call begging for a second chance. I didn't even stalk Theo's socials anymore. Not because I wasn't curious, I was, but because I finally understood that curiosity wasn't the same as connection. I started with the smallest thing I could manage. I told the truth. To myself. I opened a blank journal and wrote, "I betrayed someone who loved me because I needed to feel powerful." Then I wrote, "I let trauma become an excuse for emotional dishonesty." Then, "I want to become a person who doesn't need chaos to feel alive." And I wrote that last one again, 10 times, until my hand cramped. The next day I started therapy. Real therapy, not a podcast, not a self-help book. A real human being in a real office who stared me in the eye and said, "You're not irredeemable, but you're also not innocent, so let's work from there." That became my new foundation. Not guilt. Not self-pity. Responsibility. The kind that stings but doesn't scar. It wasn't linear. Some nights I still reached for my phone and hovered over Mason's name, then closed the app like it burned. Some mornings I saw men who looked like Theo on the street and almost started crying. But over time, something shifted. I stopped flinching when I heard his name. I stopped fantasizing about a perfect reunion. I stopped rewriting history to make myself feel better. And I started doing better. About 2 months after it all imploded, I ran into Theo's friend James at a bookstore downtown. He spotted me first. I expected coldness, distance, maybe even a dirty look. But instead, he gave me a half smile. "I wondered if I'd see you," he said, casually flipping through a magazine. "I wasn't hiding," I said, though my body told a different story. James nodded slowly. "He's doing okay, hurt but okay." I didn't ask, I started then stopped, "But thank you." We stood there a moment, strangers linked by damage. Then James said something I didn't expect. "You were good for him, until you were." I blinked. "He needed to believe someone could hold space for him again," James continued. "And for a while, you did, then you didn't, and that sucks, but it doesn't erase the good you gave him before the crash." I didn't know what to say. So I said the only thing that felt real. "I'm sorry." "I know," he replied, "but don't say it to me." That night, I went home and wrote another letter. Not to send, just to say what needed to be said. "Theo, I used your trust as a shield while giving the worst parts of me to someone else. You deserved more than my curated softness. You deserved honesty. I let my fear of being truly known keep me from letting you in, and I lied to myself while lying to you. But you changed me. You showed me what care looks like, what emotional safety really feels like, what real, patient love could be. And even if you never want to hear from me again, I'll carry that with me. I hope you're with someone who lets you be everything you are. And I hope she's brave enough to never waste it. Love, not yours anymore. Leela. I folded it and tucked it into the back of my journal. Because sometimes, the most grown-up thing you can do isn't ask for forgiveness. It's learn to live like you deserve it. And wait until you actually do. I didn't expect to see him again, not really. Maybe in some imaginary future, 5 years from now in a different city at a farmer's market. He'd be holding someone's hand, and I'd be alone but glowing with self-actualization. We'd exchange a knowing look, bittersweet, cinematic, and move on with our separate, evolved lives. But life doesn't care about your internal screenplay. It was a Tuesday. I was walking out of the little sandwich place near my office, balancing a salad I didn't want and a sparkling water I didn't need. I looked up, and there he was. Theo. Standing on the corner, waiting for the light. He hadn't changed much, still had that soft denim jacket he used to lend me when I was cold. Still walked with that slight lean, like his heart weighed just a little more than his body could carry. But his eyes, they were lighter. He looked good, not in a sexy, revenge body way, in a calm, real way. He looked like someone who wasn't trying anymore. Someone who had stopped needing to fix people. I froze, he didn't. He saw me, he registered me, he nodded. Not cold, not warm, just human. I nodded back. And that was it. We crossed paths like we were just two people in a city full of them. No slow motion music, no accidental brushing of hands, just acknowledgement. And strangely, it felt right. I didn't chase after him. Didn't call his name. Didn't whisper, wait. Because I finally understood that I wasn't the one who got left behind. I was the one who'd been let go for his sake, and now maybe for mine too. That night, I did something I hadn't done since we broke up. I deleted Mason's number. Not blocked, not archived, deleted. Because I didn't need the door open anymore. Because the part of me that had craved chaos was starting to feel nauseated by it. Because healing isn't about who's watching. It's about who's finally stopped performing. And for the first time, I wasn't writing texts I'd never send or letters I'd never mail. I was living in a life that didn't require cleanup afterward. A few days later, I got an email. No subject line, just Theo's name. I stared at it for 10 minutes before opening it. One sentence. I'm glad you're okay. That was it. No invitation, no apology, no coldness either. Just closure. Real closure. The kind that doesn't demand a response. And I didn't send one. Because sometimes, when someone hands you peace, the best thing you can do is hold it. Not twist it. Not prolong it. Just let it be. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I really did. Healing isn't a sunrise. It's a slow burn, a quiet rebuild, 1,000 little choices you make when no one's watching. I didn't wake up one day suddenly wise and whole. There was no final montage, no dramatic haircut, no perfect boyfriend waiting just off screen. There was only me, getting up, brushing my teeth, making breakfast, answering emails, living my life without needing someone to text afterward just to feel real. I started noticing small things. Like how I didn't check my phone first thing in the morning anymore. Or how I no longer rehearsed emotional speeches in the mirror, wondering what I'd say if I ever ran into Theo again and got a second chance. I stopped needing a second chance. Not because I didn't want one, but because I finally became someone who wouldn't waste it if it ever came. And that version of me didn't chase people. She didn't write half-truths and call it vulnerability. She didn't confuse validation with intimacy. She let people go, she forgave herself, and she moved the hell on. I still think about Theo. Not in a longing way. In a grateful one. He was the first person who ever gave me what I claimed to want, real patience, real softness, real safety. And I betrayed it. But instead of becoming bitter, he became free. And that taught me more than any mistake ever could. I also think about Mason sometimes, less and less. His name doesn't make me tense anymore, It doesn't make me crave or cringe or spiral, it just passes. He was the echo I couldn't stop listening for in empty rooms. Now there's only quiet, and I like the quiet. I still have the letter I wrote to Theo. It lives in the back of my closet, in a box of things I'll probably never open again. But I keep it, not to dwell on who I was, but to remember that I chose to change. Because that's the part no one talks about. Change doesn't come after the pain. It comes when you choose not to repeat it. So if you're asking whether I regret what I did, yes. And no. Yes, because I hurt someone good. No, because it woke me up. And sometimes, that's the cost of clarity. You lose the thing you wanted, but you gain the ability to become the person who might actually deserve it next time. Subscribe to my Mia's Stories YouTube channel for raw, emotional stories and authentic insights that encourage healing, growth, and understanding. Don't forget to be part of a supportive space where stories inspire and lessons resonate. What do you think about this story? Let us know in the comments. Your opinion truly matters to us, and we're here for you.